At the end of Series 1, Athos sends her into exile and threatens to kill her if she comes back to Paris, or promises to kill her if she comes back to Paris. So she is cast out, has nothing, but like a true survivor, she latches onto a bunch of, vagabonds in the forest. So she's pretty destitute when we first see her. It's pretty dire. It's not been the cheeriest of 7 or 8 months since we've seen her. We meet her in the forest, and then she stumbles across the king and D'Artagnan, as if by chance. They've been captured. They have no way out. So it's a kind of fabulous meeting for both of them. A great surprise for both of them as well. She doesn't quite know how it's going to work, but I think that's her way out. And she grabs it with both hands, which then propels her onto her journey and into the series. At the end of Series 1, the Cardinal has completely washed his hands of Milady. She's pretty much always alone, but the Cardinal was the one person she had to back her up. I don't think if she'd have managed to get her way back into Paris, he would have taken her back. I don't think she would have won his trust back. So I don't think actually his death affects her, and I think she truly believes that Athos will keep his word. So by chance, by meeting the king, she couldn't get a more powerful person to kind of associate herself with. She's very driven, and I think she doesn't know what's going to happen with the king. I don't think she sets out to be his mistress, but she grabbed those moments of seeing his interest in her as well, and then realising she could play him. But he's a clever person as well. He's not a fool. So the stakes were very high with them, but she also had nothing to lose. The idea of winning over the king made her untouchable, which is what she needed to be in order to come back to Paris. I think she's very lost throughout the series. And on one hand, she's harder because of what's happened to her. So she can very easily be the woman that everybody thinks she is. And she certainly plays to that, people's expectations of her. But I also think she's much more vulnerable and much more kind of susceptible to being hurt. I think she's very exposed, and there's something quite raw about her emotions. I think it's all just kind of under the surface. She's softened in a way, but I think that's because she's slightly without a place. Milady is so incredibly complicated. The more it goes on, the more complicated she gets. There's lots of contradictions, which are always brilliant to play anyway. You're kind of doing one thing and there's another layer and there's another layer under that, and it's great to have the history with a lot of the characters. When you go into it for a second time, you kind of bringing back backstory and kind of previous relationships. Also, I didn't quite know where she was going to go through this series, so that was quite a surprise. To what we're filming now in episode 9 and 10, I didn't really think we were going to be going there. The dynamic with Rochefort has been fascinating. There's a similarity between them, so there's a great kind of sparring kind of potential for them. Similar to what it was with the Cardinal, but because they don't have a previous relationship, he's much more dangerous to her. And she is very vulnerable with him, even though she tries not to show that. I think he's quite suspicious of who she is in the court. And also she has a very powerful position with the king, which he's scared of and jealous of. So he uses that against me. She can play him at his game, and she does her best to do that, but he's got her straight away, and he's blackmailing her, and there's not a huge amount she can do. She's kind of met her match with him. I haven't been doing my body count as I did last year, but there's quite a few on there. But I think the repercussions of that, I think it hits home more. I think she questions it. I think she's starting to look at herself and not like what she's become, but almost she can't stop what she's become. It's almost like it's just bulldozing ahead, and it's when she can go onto automatic pilot. But it's also something she's very good at. And there's a couple of occasions where she's backed into a corner and she has to just resort to what she knows and what she does very well.